UFC veteran, the super talented MMA fighter and coach, James Krause, has finally announced his retirement from the sport. Given that his last appearance in the Octagon was in 2020, this news doesn't come as a surprise, but that doesn't mean we're not sad to see him go. So join us as we pay homage to the guy by discussing his retirement and taking a look at the legacy he's leaving behind. Starting with the question, why is he retiring at all? He's a young guy after all. 36 isn't old by any means, especially if you consider we've got the 64-year-old Dan Severn still killing it in the ring. But turns out that's exactly the problem Krause has had with the sport, as he revealed on the MMA Hour on Monday, where he announced his retirement news. According to him, the game's got to end at some point. Just as football players don't play until they're 50, professional athletes like MMA fighters have got to end their careers too while they're at their peak. For him, it's 36. 34 actually, if you consider his last fight was 2 years ago. Krause also went on to add that he was done with the sport and has no desire to fight again. Instead, he's now going to focus on coaching, probably even continuing to coach Brandon Moreno, who, under his tutelage, won an interim title over Kai Kara France at UFC 277. Next, there's also his health and fitness to consider. That he mentioned while talking about his retirement on the MMA Hour. He mentioned having a herniated disc in his neck last week, which made it a real issue to go into UFC 277. We're sure that being the dedicated fighter that he is, it must have been hard to carry the pain over to the fight week, which makes it clear that retiring is the final step for him, and he's okay with that. Krause also mentioned how the game could become harmful for him if he kept playing it longer. According to him, MMA is like a drug to most fighters. It's easy for them to get addicted to the dopamine they get when they win. This is why when they lose, they need to win and feel the dopamine drip again, and it turns their career into a vicious cycle of validation that Krause didn't want to be a part of anymore. He said he didn't want to be one of those fighters people see and think, why is he even fighting anymore? And that's another reason why ending his career now is the right move. And while we'll be sad to see the welterweight fighter go, we know this decision is probably the best for him. His concluding career score of 28-8 is not too bad either. In fact, he's won 7 of his last 8 UFC bouts, dating back to July 2015. Considering all that, we think it's the best time to end his 15-year career as a professional prize fighter. So this means he's leaving on his own terms? Yes, that's right. According to Krause, he wanted 3 things whenever he called it quits. The first was to be financially free. He's done that already, and said that he'll probably lose money if he fights anymore. The second thing was to go out on his own terms, and not as the guy who lost 3 in a row and then left the ring. And the third thing he wanted was to retire from the UFC. He was pretty clear in his goals, and it's great to see he's achieved all those. So what are his future plans now? As we said earlier, Krause is all about coaching in the days ahead. In fact, he's gone so far as to say he wants to outlive his fighters. Sounds like a mission, alright. This gives us pretty good insight into what he plans to do next. There's also Glory MMA and Fitness, Krause's gym/MMA school where he's the head instructor. Between professional coaching and gym management, we're sure he won't get a lot of time thinking of his days in the ring. In fact, his glory days may just be ahead of him, considering how he's an even better coach than he is a fighter. Even his fans agree with us. Speaking of which, let's see what his fans are saying about his decision. From praising his decision to retire while he's still in his prime, to applauding his record of fights, James Krause's fans are making their love for him known. The comment section under his MMA Hour episode on YouTube is filled with people commending him, especially for his transparency about his ambitions and ventures. Some are calling him a low-key legend, while others are claiming that he's one of the best coaches out there. Some have even applauded him for creating his own stream of income, considering how they get paid in the UFC. They've termed him as an example for respecting his health enough to leave the game at a time he could probably sustain it for a few more years. Sure enough, James Krause is setting a great precedent for future fighters to prioritize themselves over the sport, a sport that's as brutal as it is rewarding. Sure, James may be one of the best fighters out there, but it's commendable how he's keeping the best part of the fight by choosing to coach others for it, without stretching himself thin to accommodate accommodate the pressure it brings to the fighters. We hope that he not only teaches his students how to fight, but also how to prioritize themselves by knowing when to quit. And now that we've told you everything there is to know about his retirement, let's take a look at how he's going to take his legacy forward with his historic wins and ventures. Starting with the Glory MMA and Fitness. We've already mentioned Krause's MMA Institute and Gym, where he trains and instructs future MMA athletes in the art of fighting. And it's a huge part of his legacy, especially considering how many fighters from Glory MMA have landed in the ring thanks to the excellent mentorship from Krause and his team. If there was ever a sign of a successful gym, that's it. It's also one of the biggest reasons why it's easy for Krause now to step down from his role as a fighter. As we said, he's still getting to keep the best part of MMA by teaching future fighters how to make it big in the industry with their skill. In the past, many people have asked if investing in the gym has been at the expense of his career, but his retirement answers that question now, while also proving what Krause is clearly interested in. In an interview, he even mentioned that this coaching is the part of his career he takes more pride in. And knowing what we've told you about him now, it's clear that his attitude and persona is all about leadership in this field, which is why we're sure that Glory MMA is going to be a part of his unending legacy for years to come. There are also his best fights, including his official UFC debut, where he fought Sam Stout and won the game against some pretty tough odds against one of the lightweight division's most skilled fighters. Sure, it wasn't the best fight of the night, but it's definitely worth mentioning, considering how it was his first. His tackling Stout just when he was about to attempt a lazy takedown was a great moment, and probably one of Krause's best. And then there's his fight with Tom Gallicchio, where he showed some pretty amazing skills that had everyone applauding him. He outmatched Gallicchio pretty easily after taking control of the game midway. He bloodied Tom pretty badly, and by the time the game went to the scorecards, all judges had scored it 30-27 for Krause. That alone shows how tough a coach he's going to be in the future, and we're sure at least Gallicchio wouldn't miss him back in the ring, especially after tending to the broken nose James gave him during the game. And finally, there's Brandon Moreno, who's been termed as a pretty special guy by Krause himself. Moreno's win at UFC 277 was a win for his coach too, whose Glory MMA and Fitness Brandon joined soon after leaving his original spot at Interim Gym. Looks like it's working out for both of them, because as the younger fighters gone on to win the interim title, James has been showering him with praises, also calling him one of the most humble, coachable people he's working with. Seems like that's one special coach-trainee relationship in the making, and we can't wait to see how Krause trains him to become one of the best MMA fighters in the UFC in the future. As for Krause himself, the guy's earned his break. Sure, he didn't get the crazy fame that other bigger names in the UFC have become used to, but whatever he did it in style. And considering how he's ending his career on a positive note and on his own terms, we're sure that this can also be considered a win for the guy, along with other accolades he's managed to collect over the years. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts about James Krause's retirement? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.